However, this offer was far from how Barak presented it. This offer was deficient in many ways, but the key way in which it fell well short of minimum Palestinian expectations for a just and equitable solution to the conflict is that the state that Barak had in mind would have basically been dismembered into 3 disconnected islands of territory with very little, if any, freedom of movement between them. So once again, the state would have been neither politically nor commercially viable, and no self-respecting Palestinian could accept that. And also, Israel has missed its own fair share of opportunities for peace. So take, for example, the Saudi or Arab League peace plan, which was advanced by King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. Now, what was really historic and groundbreaking about this peace plan was that this was the first time that a peace framework was advanced by an Arab state that enjoyed the unanimous support of all 23 members of the Arab League. All 23 members. Every single one of them signed on to this comprehensive framework for the resolution of the conflict. And the outlines of the plan that the Arab League offered were consistent with Israel's fundamental requirements. They would have allowed Israel to reside within secure and recognized borders, as Israel has always insisted upon, as long as it withdrew in full from the occupied territories, from the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. Okay, now that I've made clear that Israel's security arguments are often, that Israel's security objections to the Palestinian state are oftentimes over-exaggerated, and now that I've made clear that the peace process has not worked for the Palestinians, I think it's time that a new direction is needed. And this new direction could come in the form of the current Palestinian bid to secure recognition of an independent state from the UN. Okay, so one last major claim that I want to address is that Israel and the United States frequently assert that the UN bid is premature and that the only legitimate route to statehood is through direct negotiations between the two parties. But there are several important grounds for disagreeing with that claim. Number one, the Palestinians have demonstrated that they're more than ready for independent statehood. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have both certified that the Palestinians have established both the institutions and the infrastructure that are required for functional self-governance. Okay, and then occupation, most importantly, the occupation has only deepened while the negotiations have dragged on indefinitely. Israel has essentially used the peace process as a public relations exercise to fend off pressure from the international community and continue to expand its presence rapidly on the ground in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And finally, I'd like to make the point that by no means whatsoever is this Palestinian initiative rushed or premature. The Palestinians, for decades now, have tried every conceivable method, have resorted to every conceivable set of strategies for advancing their fundamental rights. Everything from very violent modes of action, such as suicide bombings and guerrilla warfare, to the opposite side of the spectrum, including peaceful weekly demonstrations against the expansion of the separation wall, as well as various acts of civil disobedience. But each and every time, Israel has responded in an identical way, by clamping down harder, by ratcheting up its repression, by grabbing more and more land and resources that the Palestinians need to establish a viable state. So therefore, really the UN option is the only option that the Palestinians have left at their disposal. So the decision to go to the UN is not premature, or rather it is long overdue, especially in the face of Israel's persistent denial of Palestinians' human and national rights. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the famous American civil rights activist, said, "Justice too long delayed is justice denied." Thank you very much.